All right, folks, welcome into another edition of the High School Huddle. It is our biggest edition of the High School Huddle of the season because we've got our biggest day of high school sports coming up on Saturday. Some exciting stuff on Friday as well. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones, and we are ready to bring you the March Madness.
Man, I can't wait. I mean, you guys have been talking about this time of year since I got the job, and I think it's going to live up to the hype considering all the activity and games that we got to get out to over the next 2 days.
Yeah, Saturday alone, we've got tons of boys basketball championships, girls basketball championships. We've got both our teams, our hockey teams playing in the state regional round. We have got state indoor track going on in the city. We have got state swimming going on at Ithaca. We have got state cheerleading championships going on at RIT. And we've also got some local college basketball teams, some local Section 5 stars playing in those as well. We have got so much to get to. We cannot wait. But first, before we get to what we're about to cover, we're going to take a quick look back at the stuff that we have just gotten wrapped up with, starting with potentially and probably the game of the year. Certainly any single time Penfield and Victor square off in the sectional championship game, it's crazy. You had the girls volleyball, AA, Victor storming back to beat Penfield. And then we had another dramatic game. Collar was there as Victor outlasted Penfield to advance to the state tournament.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to say congratulations to both teams in that game. That game was the definition of like an Ironman event. You can tell both teams out there were running on fumes, and Victor got the last laugh. I mean, starting off in the beginning, Penfield got out to a little bit of a good jump. And then they took a 2-1 lead in late in the second. Sean Smith doing his thing. A beautiful goal. Y'all gotta check it out, man. It was sick. He just took the puck and just went down the other way and put it in the back of the net. And then Victor got on a power play with about 5 minutes to go in regulation. And good teams are always going to take advantage of that. Colin McNamara, his second goal of the day, tied up to go into OT. And for someone like myself, I'm thinking, all right, cool. These two teams have firepower. All right, somebody's gonna score in this first OT, right? All right, cool. They a little gas, but star players are gonna find a way. What I didn't realize is that both teams had star goalies, and they played an outstanding game. It didn't really show in the first 3 periods, but man, in the overtime and shootout periods, I mean, Max Pitts stole the show from Victor's side. Also, Penfield's goalie as well. I mean, it was a classic in every essence of the word. And then we go to a shootout, and the 9th round settled it. Not the first 3. You gotta go to the 9th shooter to settle a shootout. I mean, and Jackson Guck, shout out to him. I want to give my man some kudos for getting the game-winning goal. But man, it was a legendary game. I was exhausted. Holding the camera, so I can imagine what the kids were like out there on ice skating, especially that late in the game where obviously as someone who follows the sport, they're not going deep in their lines that late in the game. They're just going 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. So I mean, those kids were out there running on fumes. So I want to give some love to Thomas. They took down Aquinas in the championship game, doing their thing per usual in the Class B title. The Stappenbeck brothers, once again, it was cool to see Aiden and Ethan get their little combo going on for the first goal of the game. But Thomas getting back on top where they not deserve to be, but where they've been for a very long time for that program, and see how far they can go in the state tournament, like you alluded to.
Yeah, their second title in the last 3 years, and Aquinas, they had quite the run there. They won in overtime to reach the championship game, and really gave a really strong fight in that championship game, just kind of following it along. It was a 1-goal game down to the wire. Thomas packed in an empty netter to make it a 2-goal game, but that was a really nice performance from them. Both those teams have some really tough tests coming up in the state regional round, especially Victor. They've got the top seeded, the top ranked Orchard Park. They are undefeated on the season, so certainly, both of our teams are in the top 3. We will see how they will do. Victor has Orchard Park. And Thomas has, I believe it's Skinny Atlas that they have in the championship, the Far West Regional Championship. So, and Skinny Atlas is second in the state. So we will see how they both fare. Some top 3 battles, potentially, could have been state championship games or state semis, but that's the way the cookie crumbles there. So we will see how that goes on. Those games are Saturday at SUNY Brockport. We also had some other state championships this past weekend. We had our state wrestling individual championships. We had 2 local wrestlers, Section 5, come home with state titles. It was Hilton's Rocco Camilacci and Jaden Scott from Rush Henrietta. Both have been to the state tournament 4 times before. Both have been close to the podium. Even Jaden Scott had a technical state title, even though he finished second. The first guy wasn't, in the NISFA organization. So, but both of them finally officially won state titles this weekend. Glad to see those happen. We, I talked to both of them before. They're both really looking forward to it. All they could think about winning those state titles. So congrats to them. And then we also had skiing state championships this week. We had 2 local skiers, both from Brighton, Ben Comio and Kate Anzalotti. I hope I'm saying especially Ben's last name correctly. They won individual championships, Anzalotti in Nordic and Ben with the Alpine. And then Brighton girls and HFL boys both took home state titles. So congrats to them as well. So we got a lot of state titles given out, and we're going to have a lot of bricks on the line this upcoming week, this upcoming weekend. We're going to start previewing every single bracket here for you. We got a lot to get to, so we're going to kind of get through them both as quickly and as thoroughly as we can. We're going to start off with the boys side of the bracket. Carl, we've got a great matchup, a great story in boys basketball in the Class AA matchup.
Oh yeah, great story indeed. I mean, obviously this time of year, it's win or go home, and it's a make or miss game. And Rush Henrietta has had the luck of the draw the past 2 games. You were at the Rush Henrietta Victor game where Rush Henrietta was up pretty large in the 4th quarter, and then it slowly dwindled away the rest of the game. But they found a way. They
hit a couple shots. They needed like 3 baskets down the stretch and some free throws. They actually did a decent enough job at their free throws. I've seen a lot of bad free throw shooting down the stretch here. It's tough in crunch time, but they did enough to get the win over Victor there.
Yeah, it's a great story. And then they followed it up with an even better game against Hilton. It was a back and forth game down the stretch. It ended up going to OT. And then they found a way from a half-court buzzer beater to win the game from Mason Giorgio. And I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I mean, you want to talk about a Cinderella storybook like run to a sectional title championship game. I mean, there's no better way to write it up. Take out the number 1 seed and then a half-court buzzer beater. I mean, come on, that's what we all want. And then coming up next, they probably have, in my opinion, they're probably the best team in AA with Aquinas, who's been rolling throughout their side of the bracket, taking down a very good, as we both know, Edison Tech team, 84-66. I mean, Aquinas has a who's who of guys. I mean, the Blackwoods, Jack Blyer, excuse me. I mean, you name it. I mean, they have guys. So it'll be an interesting matchup. We'll see if Rush Henrietta's magic continues, or we'll see if Aquinas puts a stop to that and says, okay, chill out. Let's here's the big dogs here. So we'll see.
Yeah, that RH Hilton game, RH even made a great comeback at the end of regulation. Both teams had some prime chances to win at the end of regulation, but neither could get it done. And then, Hilton hits a shot on one side. Mason Giorgione, I believe it is, he's probably got 12 different ways people pronounce his name, but hits the, step back, like you said, near half, like he was like, I actually saw, Jackson Roberts over at Channel 10. When I saw it the first time, I was like, all right, this isn't half court. But then when I saw the overhead, I'm like, dang, this dude was at near logo. So yeah, RH there. And then Aquinas, like you said, this game might just turn, our RH certainly has a ton of momentum. This game might just be, these 2 teams get on the court and like Aquinas has got dudes, and then, RH has got guys. So we'll just see how that shakes out there. Even in that quarterfinal game, Carl, you were there as Aquinas beat Fairport, and that was a Fairport team that we thought was very feisty, who could potentially go on an RH type run. That game they just kind of eventually said, we're kind of done playing here.
Yeah, I mean, I got there at the beginning of the 2nd quarter. I think it was a 1-point game, and then I was at that 2nd quarter where Aquinas just said, okay, let's quit playing around now. Let's turn up the heat, turn up the gas, and I think they outscored them by like 15 in that quarter. So Aquinas clearly has the ability to step on the gas and pull away from just about anybody in this AA bracket. So we'll see if that continues this Saturday at 6:00.
Yeah, and then taking over to the A1 the A1 final in boys basketball, it is going to be the top seeded from Mendon taking on the 3 seed from Schrader. Schrader, they had they lost in the regular season to Thomas by, I believe it was 17 points. They upset Thomas pretty convincingly, and I was at that game. I was at both of these A1 semifinal games. I think, man, Thomas was just really uncomfortable. And Thomas has some guys, Jackson Kulik, they've got some dudes who can play. Schrader just neutralized all of their threats. Thomas could not get anything going on offense. They were uncomfortable all game long. They were getting no open looks. Schrader was really playing tough defense. It was just a lot of tough threes and turnovers and things like that. Schrader was just in control from start to finish. A great win from Schrader in that Webster versus Webster game. And then, Carl, you were there when they beat Athena at the buzzer there. So another theatric against a really good Athena team that we accurately predicted might have been the best game of the quarterfinals, and it certainly was.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've seen it with Schrader a little bit. They can play different styles of basketball, which has kind of helped them in this tournament run, going against a more athletic Athena team and, being able to run up and down the court with them and neutralize maybe their athleticism a little bit. And then also a team like Thomas who can shoot the lights out, and they were able to, make them uncomfortable like you alluded to. Schrader has, taken it to another level in the sectional run, and that's exciting to see.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the bracket, it's going to be Mendon, the top seed. They took down Irondequoit. This game was close midway through the third quarter. Irondequoit actually took a 2-point lead. And then Jackson Green just kind of took over there. He was dynamite. It was one of my favorite performances I've seen from a player so far, certainly in this playoffs and probably this entire season. He was just in control. He was hitting tough shots. He was making the right passes. He was hitting his 3-pointers. At one point, he got poked in the eye. He lost his contact. He found it on the ground, had to put it in. Anybody who wears contacts knows it's not going to be right the entire way. It was bothering him the entire rest of the way, but he ended up with 24 points. He scored 19 of them in the second half, 11 of those in the fourth quarter. They won 62-47. The men at defense held Irondequoit to 2 points in the fourth quarter. So that just goes to show you how good they've been. This is a Mendon team. I singled them out as my favorite, my flag plant team before the sectional tournament. They're doing a good job of proving me right so far. You mentioned that Schrader can, play a lot of different styles. They neutralize the shooting of Webster Thomas. They neutralize the athleticism of Athena. They're going to have to neutralize the shooting and the athleticism of Mendon. So good luck to the Schrader Warriors, that's for sure.
Yeah, and like you talked about Mendon neutralizing in that fourth quarter. Ryan Heath and Xavier Gissendaner are 2 really, really good basketball players, and they couldn't get much going in that fourth quarter. I watched the stream a little bit, and like you said, good players this time of year really stand out, and Mendon has a pretty good one in Jackson Green.
Yeah, Jackson Green was just a lot of fun to watch. I'll just say that. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in another championship moment. They won the title last year, so they'll try to go for 2 in a row this time around. In the A2 bracket, it was East taking care of business in a battle of Wayne teams. Taking care of business might be a little overstretching there. They were down 19 in the second quarter. They ended up winning the third 25-6. And then they squeaked it out at the end. They had a little bit of trouble with their free throws. Wayne made a really good push. Wayne was down 2 with like 20 seconds to go. They had a look. Mason Blankenberg, a contested 3, which would have given them the lead. Ended up short. Damani Barley got the rebound. Finally made his 2 free throws, and they came out with the win there. And then Sutherland in the other matchup. This was one of the craziest finishes literally I've ever seen to a basketball game. Certainly one of the most unique finishes I've ever seen to a basketball game. This one was low scoring all throughout. In the second or the third quarter, Sam Piscinelli finally pushed it open a little bit. He scored all of Sutherland's 14 points in the third quarter, and then down the stretch, it was very tight. Tyler Mullins hit a pair of clutch 3-pointers for Sutherland down the stretch. The second of which gave them a 2-point lead, and then Eastridge comes back the other way. They've got 8 seconds on the clock after a missed free throw by Sutherland. Saquon Wester gets a really nice look from three. It goes up. It's I'm watching my camera. It's looking pretty darn good. Gets stuck. A wedgie, as the kids call it. It gets stuck. The possession arrow did go to Eastridge. They tried to get something going, lob it up to Wester, but the entire gym knew that he was the guy that was going to get that lob there, so it just wasn't able to work out. A really dramatic and crazy game. Cordell Young had a ridiculous floater also down the stretch for Eastridge, their clutch bucket. A really tough scene afterwards. The Lancers were really crushed after this one. They really wanted that. They've got a lot of seniors on their team. Just a heartbreaking loss. I think they're going to be kicking themselves for that one. But East versus Sutherland. We've seen Sutherland muck up some games. They won that game in the 30s against Eastridge. We will see if East can take care of business in this one. Certainly they're going to be the favorites, but let's not count out Sutherland with what they just did to Eastridge.
Oh, no. Hey, this time of year, I mean, anything can happen. Clearly, they took down a really, really talented Eastridge team, and East was just down, like you just said, 19 to a Wayne team that we thought was good, but maybe not had the potential to go up nearly 20 on that Eagle team. So anything can happen. Although I will say it was a sight to see watching East turn up their pressure defense in that third quarter against Wayne.
Oh yeah.
And if they can do that against Sutherland, good luck. But they needed to go to that bag. Like that was like a last effort to do that. So we'll see. It'll be an exciting game. Two contrasting styles. Can't wait to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and number 5 for East, Quentin Gordon Smith hit a pair of threes. As Carl was watching the stream, he was texting me. He's heating up. He's got the fire going on him. I actually had to after he hit his 3 threes, like I had not recognized him. I've been to 2 East games before, have not really seen him before. I was like, all right, maybe this is just a name I don't know that I don't know the face to. Did not know the name Quentin Gordon Smith to begin with. So that just goes to show you they've got some depth on that team. He didn't quite have it in the fourth quarter. He missed a couple threes, but you can get hot like that. We're going to learn your name. And then, we're not going to have a show before the crossover, the state qualifier games. If this does turn out to be East out of A2 and Mendon in A1, that might be the game of the year. So, we can't predict it right now. We're not going to quite preview it, but certainly just have that in the back of your head that this is going to be maybe the game of the year between East and Mendon. I hope I will be able to get to that game. That's for sure.
Retweet on that one.
Yeah. All right. We are going to now go down to Class B, where one of Carl's teams that he kind of is sleeper made it all the way to the finals here in B1.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them one time in a win, and they kind of impressed me. And I'll just talk about it right now. Palmac is taking on Newark, the 4 seed. Palmac, Newark, the 2. And the reason why I like Palmac is this time of year, your guards dictate everything. I mean, they touch the ball at all times, and if they can put the ball in the cup, get their teammates involved, they can go as far as they can take you. And Palmac, their 2 brothers, the Goodness brothers, I mean, that's a funny last name considering how they can play, but Paul and Ian, those 2 kids can flat out dictate a game at all times. And I mean, they took down a Batavia team that upset North Star in one of the craziest games I think I've ever heard of. The fact that we can get on that another day, but the fact that Batavia North Star game was nuts. That was just flat out nuts.
It was like North Star was up like 20-5 or something like that, but then Batavia had winning by like 10. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. And Palmac took care of them, and then Newark took down an Olympia team, which we talked about, that had some athletic guys that can make some noise. So this is gonna be a good one. Both teams have a win apiece over each other in the regular season. They're pretty hot coming into the this game right here. Newark hasn't lost since that Palmac loss back in early January, and then outside of the Lions loss, Palmac is the same. Considering how they've been electric down the stretch, it's gonna be interesting to see. Newark has some guys who are 6'4" and above, so we'll see if that length can be too much of a factor compared to the guard play of Palmac. But man, my guys have made it this far. We'll see how they match up against a Reds team that is pretty darn good.
Paul Goodness, like you mentioned, that senior guard, That's what it's all about in tournament time. It's about your seniors. It's about your guards. They've got a good one there. So that should be a great one to watch. That game is Saturday at Schrader at 4 p.m. So we're really excited to see that one.
Yeah, and then over to Class B2, we got a couple. I don't want to say Cinderellas, but a couple teams who've knocked off some higher seeded teams with Wellsville, the 4 seed, and Minders, the 3 seed. Wellsville took down the top seeded Dansville 60-52 to get here, and then Minders took down a Leroy team, which we know has some guys that can light up the box score as well. Shout out to Merritt Holly Jr. But it'll be an interesting game. I mean, the records aren't too convincing. I mean, 13-8 and 14-8 aren't gonna make you double take, but maybe they found something out over the past 2 weeks. It's got to get hot at the right time. So we'll see who can come out of Class B2.
Yeah, like you said, both teams are probably playing, their best basketball of the season. Wellsville knocks off Dansville, Minders knocks off Leroy. Those are, really quality wins. That Dansville team was a really strong number 1 seed. So, that B2, we don't get a lot out. We haven't gotten to see much of these teams this season, but just a really interesting matchup between two teams peaking at the right time. That game will be Saturday. Also at Webster Schrader, that one at 1 o'clock. Moving down to Class C, where we've got some of the best matchups, I think, in this entire bracket.
AJ teams right here.
Yeah, we've got Rochester Academy in C1. They're 19-0. They got to the championship game by beating Canisteo Greenwood 54-41. And then you've got Avon, the defending sectional champs. They got here with a 49-35 win over Geneseo. We did a story on Rochester Academy. They've got loads of guys. They're seeking their first title in school history. Avon brought everybody back from that sectional title team last year. These two teams met in the regular season. It was an overtime game, so that just shows you how tight these two teams are. Rax ended up getting the win 57-50. And when I talked to them, a couple of the players, they were like, and their coach, when did you guys kind of know where you're good? That Avon game, you beat the defending sectional champs in overtime. It was in their gym. Rax does not have a home gym, so it's always it's always a road game for the Racers there. That's going to be a really fun game to watch. You've got the experience, the playoff experience of a sectional defending sectional title team from Avon, from the sheer athleticism from a Rochester Academy, the team that can just jump out of the gym, they can shoot, they can pass, they get a little fancy, they go behind the back, they got some good dribbling skills. So that's going to be a really fun matchup. Just maybe the best game on paper of the boys bracket.
Yeah, I saw Avon earlier this year once take down Cal Mum, and I saw them play a little bit of zone defense against Cal Mum, and Cal Mum couldn't. They just struggled to put the ball in the hoop a little bit. So Avon clearly can play some defense on that side of the ball. It'll be interesting to see how they, what's their game plan against a Rax team like you talked about that can jump out the gym. They're very athletic. Will be their game plan, and we'll see what team, I guess, this time around has the adjustments to raise the brick.
That game's going on Friday night at Bloomfield at 7. Another Friday 7 o'clock game. This one at Victor is the Class C2 final. It is the top seeded from Lions versus the number 2 Oakfield, Alabama squad. These teams both only have one loss on the season. Lions came in this, just one of the games of the year, the regular season game. It was them versus Avoca Prattsburgh, the top 2 teams in their respective classes, Lions in Class C, Avoca Prattsburgh in Class D. That was just a wild game. That was a track meet. Lions has dropped to number 2 in the rankings, which I don't know if I agree with that, but that game was just a wild matchup. And then Oakfield, Alabama, they've got some, their only loss was to a really good Wheatland Chi-Li team who we're going to talk about later in the show. They rolled through their semifinal game against Pembroke 61-31. Lions did the same to Campbell Lavoca 77-46. So a pair of one-loss teams in this championship game. Oakfield, Alabama is ranked 9th in the state, so certainly well-respected as well. This is also going to be another great game for sure.
I mean, we talked about Lions and I think J.C. Walker and how he can like to step up a little bit. Up-tempo, my type of game. We're getting up and down the court, track meet. Man, I mean, with 2 losses combined this late in the year, Yeah, y'all need to be on the lookout for that one and see who come out on top of for that game.
Yeah, and you've got Oakfield, Alabama, a team with some championship pedigree from what they did on the football field this past season. Gage Armbruster is one of their top players. Obviously, was their main guy for football as well. So the Hornets definitely not going to go down without a fight against Lions. That is for sure.
Yeah, and then I guess over to Class C3 now. You got York, the 4 seed, taking on Cal Mum, the 2 seed. York, to get here, they took down the 1 seed Eugenio Marie in a pretty. I think that our sports director Thad Brown was at that game, and he said that it was kind of controlled by the fourth quarter. So York clearly it wasn't like no fluke win on that one. They took it to Eugenio Marie in that one, and then Cal Mum on the other side of the bracket, the 2 seed is here at 16-5. 17-5, excuse me. Their head coach Dan Pickens is retiring, so it's a little extra incentive for his players to go a little harder, knowing that this at any given moment this is his last game ever coaching. Cal Mum took down Dundee Bradford, 82-67 in their previous game, and I just talked about York beating Eugenia Marie. They played 3 times this year, so there's not going to be no trickeration. There's not going to be any play that either team hasn't seen at this point in the year. It's just going to be my guy against your guy, and I mean, I hate to get too cliche-ish, but it's my will versus yours. I mean, it's gonna be the little things, and I know like all the no, I'm being serious. Like this time of year, you've seen that team that much. There's nothing that you're gonna do that's gonna try to trick your way to beating me. It's just gonna have to beat me fair and square. Cal Mum, I believe, has lost 2 out of the 3 games. I believe.
Cal Mum won 2 of those 3. So yeah, they played once in a tournament, which is why they got the 3 games in a holiday tournament. Cal Mum with 2 of those 3 wins. The 2 Cal wins were pretty convincing by double digits. York squeaked one out 66-65. So gonna be interesting to see how round 4 goes, see if they can get Dan Dickens a win as the Raiders head coach retires in that C3 game. That will also be Friday night at Dansville at 7:00. Kyle Wade been doing a lot of good things for Cal Mum this season. We've seen him in the box score a bunch, but we'll see how that game shakes out. Over in D1, the Avoca Prattsburgh bracket, that's how you talk about in March Madness. This is the Kansas bracket, this is the Duke bracket, this is the Avoca Prattsburgh bracket. They're 22-0. They have not lost a game all season, like we mentioned before. They took care of Lions in a great regular season game. They do not have an easy test against them, certainly in this championship game. They're taking on Wheatland Shiloh, the number 2 seed there, 19-3 on the season. They've got some really good wins to close down the stretch. They beat North Star and Cal Mum to close out the regular season. 2 really good teams. The Wildcats are 7th in the state, but Avoca Prattsburgh is just going to be tough to beat. Undefeated for a reason, number 1 state for a very good reason.
Yeah, I mean, Primetime, when they came on the show, talked about how they can run up and down just about with anybody, and I mean they've been doing the same thing in the tournament, so I don't expect it to stop in the sectional title game. So we'll see. If what happens in that game, because man, Avoca Prattsburgh is nothing to mess around with. And then we're gonna go finish it off the boys bracket. Gonna go to D2, where it's pretty much chalk with Batavia Notre Dame and with the 1 seed and Elba, the 2 seed. Gotta show love to the small schools right here. And then Batavia Notre Dame is 7th in the state. They won their sectional games pretty convincingly, both by 30 plus. So that they're I guess peaking at the right time, so to speak. Their head coach, Michael Rapone, I believe is how you say his name.
I believe it's Rapone. I'm not positive, but we should know this, given that he's Section 5's all-time win leader. Apologize to Mr. Mike.
Yeah, I apologize for that sincerely, but like AJ just alluded to, the Section 5's all-time win leader. So clearly, this time of year, nothing's going to surprise him. He's going to have his guys prepared to go get another brick. But also, Elba is no slouch at all. They're 19th in the state. It'll be interesting to see. Elba did take down that Wheatland Chi-Li team that we just talked about. So clearly, they have some guys and some potential to take down Batavia Notre Dame. But also in the regular season, Batavia Notre Dame won both matchups by 7 and 11 points.
Yeah, so a 2-0 sweep in the regular season, but no blowouts there. They played them tight in both of those games. So we'll see if Elba can turn the tide in the D2 championship game. That one will be on Saturday. All right, our boys' brackets are all in the books. It's time now to get to the girls' side, where we've got maybe the matchup. We talked about some of the top matchups on the boys' side. The girls' side, it's front and center. It's AA. This is the one we've been waiting for all season long. It's Bishop Kearney versus Fairport. That game will be Saturday night at Rush Henrietta, the final of a big slate of games at RH. Bishop Kearney, they haven't lost to a Section 5 team all day. They haven't played a ton of Section 5 teams this year, which has been a little disappointing for us. They beat Victor pretty handily, 65-44. Bishop Kearney, though, they've got Kaya Good. They've got a ton of players around her as well. They're fast. They can press you to death. And then Fairport, I was at that game where they took down Penfield in the semifinal game, 80-67. There's actually both of these semifinal games. Bella Pucci just went off. One of my favorite performances. I talked about Jackson Green. I want to talk about Bella Pucci now. She had 32 points. She had her swagger going. She was pumping up her teammates. She was hitting threes. She was taking long threes. She had a ton of confidence that game. She was getting right behind her team's bench was the Fairport parents. So they were getting everybody hyped up. They were doing just a fantastic run. They were down midway through that third quarter. They turned it on. It just really wasn't close after they decided they really pressed them, which was the issue. Penfield could not handle their press. Bella Pucci had 32. Nevaeh Buntley had 20. Ella Mabon had 21. So these are three players that scored 73 of their 80 points in that game. So that just goes to show you what Fairport can do when their three-headed monster is clicking.
I mean, there's a bunch of matchups where you want to talk about star power and box office, so to speak. This is the game right here. Kearney, Fairport. I mean, obviously, Kaya Good, she can go with just about anybody in Section 5. And then Bella Pucci, like you alluded to. I had to check out on Twitter to see the hype you were talking about. And I'm looking at some of the shots she's taking. I'm like, oh, yeah, she's clearly like in a different zone right now. Like the three she's taking, like she's not even looking at she's getting the pill and just throwing it up. I'm like, oh, yeah, she's in her zone. So shout out to Miss Pucci for that one. I can't wait for this one as well. I haven't seen Kearney this year. I've seen Fairport just once. So we'll see how the two Goliaths match up in that regard.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the style. Both of these teams press really. That's how they can win a lot of their games is through that press. Both teams have great ball handlers, so I doubt that'll really be the difference in their game. And we talked about Bella Pucci, with her the confidence, the swagger. Kaya Good's kind of like a silent assassin when you see her play. Like she kind of goes about her business. She is not the flashiest player with her words, but certainly with her actions, she leads the way. So I'm gonna be interesting to see that kind of clashes in personality and at how they battle against each other in a sectional championship game when everything's on the line. And speaking of firepower, Class A.
Yeah, I mean the girls. I want to say the first three games at least in terms of class size. I mean, you want to talk about who's who of star power out there. I mean, Menden. We'll start with them. Obviously, they're a phenomenal team. Anaya Coleman, Lily Kennedy. Danny Schroff. I mean, they've been doing their thing all year. It showed again against Sutherland. And I know I talk about this a lot. When you look great, that's good. But how do you look when you may not be clicking on all cylinders? The game was kind of ugly to start. Like both teams were in like serious foul trouble. Like it was like 13, 14 combined fouls in that first quarter. It didn't bother Menden at all. They still going up and down the court. The shots weren't falling cool, but they were still running their sets, playing great defense. They started off the game 10-0 to go to show you they really weren't affected by that whatsoever. I mean, they're very, very talented. I can go ad nauseum all day about how great they are. But then also, Schrader and Canandaigua, that was a phenomenal game in itself just because you talked about Bella Pucci and Jackson Green. Mariah Watkins put on one of those performances where she's going to go back and tell her friends and all that. What I did was legendary because that Canandaigua team didn't have an answer for what she was doing out there. Everybody in the gym, I'm sure the people across the street knew who was getting the ball every possession, and she was still putting it in the hoop. I mean, it was considering the stakes, and I know that I've seen her have a bunch of games where she's put up 20, 30 points this year. Considering that Canandaigua team, which is phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball, not have an answer for what she was doing, it was crazy. And that fourth quarter where she hit the go-ahead de facto game-winning bucket, like with about a minute left in the game. It was just kind of like what's the phrase called where it's like a little sayonara or a feather cap to what her performance, because man, that was box office. So I can't wait to see if Schrader has the talent, like top to bottom, to match up with Menden, but just the star power alone of Mariah versus the who's who that Menden offers. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah, it's not very often where, you get a, like a 3 seed like Schrader going up against a top dog with, the problem, potentially the best player in that matchup. Menden, they share the load a little bit, so maybe they don't get the numbers that Watkins puts up. But it's going to be, you mentioned everybody knew it was going to Mariah. We will see if Menden has an answer for them. That would be Menden's 6th straight sectional title. So all those seniors, since the time they reached 7th grade, I don't know if any of them played on that 7th grade team. I'm not quite sure because, they've been good for a while, but that'd be 6 straight for the Vikings. So we'll see how that shakes up. Going into B1, we talked about how that was Avoca Prattsburgh's bracket on the boys side. The B1 girls side, that is Waterloo's bracket. They are 22-0 on the season. They're the top seed. They're taking on Hornell. We'll see if they can then beat Waterloo. I don't want to spend too much time because I think this is just going to be a Waterloo dub. Feel free to prove us wrong, Hornell, but it was 76-49 in the regular season. Waterloo getting the win. So good luck beating Waterloo. We'll just say that.
Good luck.
That's really all we need. In B2, Friday night as well. That Waterloo game is also Friday night at 8. The preview or the game before that one at Rush Henrietta, that'll be 6 o'clock. Mid Lakes taking on Wellsville. Mid Lakes is the top seed in the bracket. Wellsville is the 3rd seed. Mid Lakes is 17-5. They beat Penn Yan 47-45 in the semifinals to reach there. Wellsville, they won another 2-point game, 59-57. They knocked down Livonia, who's a really good team with a really star player in Kylie Buckley, one of our favorite players in girls basketball. So these are 2 teams. They just won close ones. They know how to win clutch. They have not met this season, so going to be a fun game to watch Friday night. One of the best matchups we'll have on that Friday night slate of games.
Yeah, can't wait to see how that one shakes out as well. And then from there, we'll go to Class C, back to Saturday games. C1 will start because it's 3 divisions in this class. I don't know why they break it up like this, but that's not up for me to decide.
They do that in the boys too. You forgot about that.
Well, they need to feel my energy on.
There's a lot of Class C teams, Carl. There's a lot of Class C teams. We got to get them 3 bricks.
Hey, more accomplishments for the kids. I'm all for it, I guess. We'll start with East Rochester, one of the top teams in the state, taking on like Alexander. Similar to Waterloo, East Rochester is really, really darn good. Although they did lose their second to last game of the regular season to Lions, who is now at home. We'll see if Alexander can do the same. I can't really see it at this point. ER won by 18 points to get here over a Geneseo team, and then Alexander beat Addison by 1. So we'll see. Neither team has met this year. I would be really impressed if Alexander can hang with the Bombers.
Yeah, Alexander in that semifinal game, it was a wild finish against Addison. They were down 1 with like 7 seconds to go. One of their players pulls up for a jumper from the low wing, hits the side of the backboard, and then it goes right back to her, and she puts in the putback for the win at the buzzer. So, we talked about that Eastridge game, some of you've never seen before. I have never seen that before to win a game. That is for sure. So, I can't say too much about these teams other than East Rochester is really, really good. East Rochester is 8th in the state at the latest state rankings. Alexander is not to be seen in those state rankings. So Eastridge, they won it was either their first sectional title last year or their first sectional title in a very, very long time. They're going to try and go 2-0 and maybe go on a deep state run. Yeah,
and they got Sammy Lewis, and not many other teams do. So, well, that's usually an answer that most teams don't have. Most teams don't have an answer for her. I'll just say that. And then over to C2, we have Pavilion, the 1 seed taking on Gananda, who just upset a pretty good Kyle Savannah team to get here. That'll be at Rush Henrietta at 1 o'clock on Saturday. To get to this point, excuse me. Pavilion took down Kendall by 44 to 40. And then, like I talked about, Gananda beat Claude by 2 in the semifinal. Pavilion's really darn good. They're 18-2 on the year. Gananda is 14-7. Gananda clearly has the capability to knock off a top team. We'll see if they can duplicate their performance 2 games in a row. And neither team has met this season.
Yeah, you've got Pavilion. They just went on, Carl got to talk to them about their volleyball team. So, a lot of those skills translate as well. So they've got a lot of those players on both teams as well. So you got that championship experience as well. You've got some height on both teams. You got a 6'2" junior, Lauren Kingsley for the Golden Gophers, Shay Amberger, a 5'11" senior. And then for the Blue Panthers, you've got 6-foot sophomore, Kaylee Marvin. So a couple, big post presences in that game. Going to be interesting to see how those players square out in the post. Might be where that game gets decided. That game is being played Saturday afternoon at 1:00.
And finishing up the class that has about 10,000 teams in class with C3 now. With Dundee Bradford, the 1 seed, taking on York, we have chalk in the championship game. It'll be Saturday at 11 a.m. at Rush Henrietta. So this is going to be the first game of the long day at Rush Henrietta. Dundee Bradford is 21-1 on the year. The only loss is to Homer. In their semifinal game, they took down Kashikwa, I believe is how you say that, 46-30. Kashikwa, I'm sorry. 46-39. York, a pretty darn good team themselves. They're 19-3 and took down a Lindenville team 43-23. I just saw Lindenville take down Harley Allendale Columbia the previous game, so that's an impressive win, to say the least. Neither team has met this year. We'll see. They're going to take it back to their AAU days, playing the games at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. So we'll see which team has more AAU players and who comes up to show in that one.
Yeah, and this is the Dundee Bradford is the 1 seed in this matchup, but York is actually the team state ranked in this one. York 19th ranked in the state. Dundee Bradford is not ranked. So these small schools, the state rankings I think mean a little bit less because even the sports writers who are making these polls, they don't get to see them quite as much nearly as the top dogs. But should be an interesting matchup between these top 2 teams in C3. And then moving on to Class D, another matchup between the top seed and the number 2 seed. You got Fillmore at the number 1 seed. They're undefeated on the season. They will be taking on Batavia Notre Dame, who are the 2nd seed in this bracket. They are 17-5. Fillmore, they're the top team in Class D in the entire state. They are the only undefeated team left in Class D for girls basketball. Notre Dame Batavia is 13th ranked in the state. So, we've talked about, some of these top teams, Avoca Prattsburgh in Class D. We have not gotten to see Fillmore, in girls basketball, but they're 22-0. I'm sure that if we'd say that, we'd be raving about Fillmore. So apologies to Fillmore, but yeah, they seem to be pretty good.
Yeah, 22-0 this time of year. I don't care what your schedule is this and the third. You can only play who's in front of you. So once again, our apologies for not showing more love to that, but 22-0 is impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, Fillmore, Batavia Notre Dame, winners of 9 of their last 10. Fillmore obviously undefeated. They have won their games by an average margin of victory of 24 points. So yeah, Fillmore, good basketball. And then in D2, you've got Avoca Prattsburgh once again in the championship game on the girls' side. They're the 4th seed. They're going to be taking on Andover Whitesville, the 2nd seed. This game is Friday at 6:00 at Letchworth. That D1 game is Friday at 8:00 at Letchworth. You've got Avoca Prattsburgh. They're 16-6 on the season to make it to the championship game. They knocked off Jasper 57-39, and Andover Whitesville. They are the 2nd-ranked team in the bracket. They're the 9th-ranked team in the state. They're 18-3 on the season, and they beat a pretty quality Elba team, which is also state-ranked. They squeaked out a win there, 45-43 in the semifinal to reach that game. So on paper, another strong team against we got a state-ranked team in Andover Whitesville in that game. So the Class D bracket looks like we've got some good ones. We will not be able to get out to any of these games all the way down in Letchworth, but certainly we'll have the scores for you on Round Ball Roundup there.
Yeah, let's see if Avoca Prasburg, they can go down the court like the boys can, but I trust that the girls are pretty darn good themselves making it this far.
Yeah, it's always fun to see a team win, state title or sectional titles on both the girls' side and the boys' side. I always love going out to a school where that type of dynamic is. I ask them, is there a little smack talk? Usually they give the PC answer. They'll be like, oh, we support each other, they're yada yada. But I'm sure one of these teams win, the other teams loses. Maybe like the first couple days, they're we feel bad for. Sorry, May comes around, graduation for the seniors. Eat this brick.
100%. You know it. That's factual. You know it.
All right. So we have got a lot to cover this weekend. It is going to be just fantastic basketball. We're going to have all the highlights for you Friday night and Saturday night on Round Ball Roundup. We're going a twofer there. Friday, we got some great games. Saturday, we got a lot of games. Thad Brown's coming in off the bench. He's filming these hockey games for us. We got so much. So shout out to Thad. He's coming out, off the bench for some high school hockey coverage. We are really looking forward to it. And as we didn't even get a chance to talk about it. We got a ton of swimmers in the boys swimming going for, their state title. Pittsford doing their thing, Canandaigua doing their thing. And then on the track and field, that'll be down in the city. We're not going to get time to them on Saturday unless somebody does something crazy. But typically on that Sunday show, we like to run through some highlights, things like that. So if you're a swimming fan, a track and field fan, Sunday is probably going to be the show for you. We got a lot to do. I ran out of my glass of water about 35 minutes ago. So we got to a lot here today. We're looking forward to a great weekend here.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm the first 3 rounds of play have been exciting and
yeah, like we really didn't hype this up enough. This boys bracket has just been straight up bonkers.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've covered 2 buzzer beaters personally, and I think there's been at least 2 other ones. And then there's been upsets. There's been star performances. Whatever you want, Section 5 has given it to you over the past week, man. Come on.
And now we get these championship games where, especially in these top 3 boys brackets, we've kind of got a heavy favorite. We've got a scrappy underdog. Will any of these underdogs pull out the win? We will just have to wait and see, and we will have it for you Saturday night. Well, we have gone on long enough. We're going to hope that we don't have a podcast length limit on our sites. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can catch it on YouTube and RochesterFirst.com for the video portion. For Carl Jones, I am AJ Fellman. Thank you for joining us very much. We will see you next week as we preview the Far West Regionals and all these basketball games. Should be a great time. Enjoy the basketball this weekend. We will see you then.